FORA.tv. The world is thinking.
For example, one thing that really surprised me in writing this book is I really came to have an admiration for the actions George Bush took in November, December of '06 and January of '07. Now, he needed the two before of the midterm elections in '06 slammed over his head to start doing the right thing, but he really did. And I think it was actually George Bush's finest moment when he says, you know, I'm losing this war, I'm losing the American people, they ain't buying what I'm selling. And he goes out and gets himself a whole new set of commanders in Iraq, a whole new strategy, turns the war over to the dissidents and says, you know, you guys are so smart, you do it. And he backs them up. Nobody was supporting this. Nobody in the military chain of command liked the idea except Odierno. Nobody in Congress particularly liked it. But these guys were willing to take a risk, and he did take a risk. It actually struck me, rereading his surge speech, January 10th, 2007, that he gave a speech that reminded me of the fireside speech that FDR gave in February 1942, saying, look, we're getting our butts kicked here, we're going to try things differently, we'll succeed. Of course, the difference was FDR gives that speech 3 months after Pearl Harbor, 3 months into the war. It takes George Bush 4.5 years before he does the right thing, before he wakes up and says, okay, let's actually change the way we're operating in this war. I think history is actually going to judge these people worse than they are being judged now. I think George Bush ultimately will go down as, by far and away, the worst president this country ever had. But worse than that, I actually think we still don't know the whole story of torture. And I'm a one-issue voter on this. I really hate the idea of Americans torturing people. And torture, we all need to understand, torture was done in my name and in your name in recent years. People were subjected to extreme violations of their rights. People were killed. And we still don't know how it happened, who ordered it, how it played out. I would like to see a Truth and Reconciliation Commission akin to what South Africa had after apartheid. I'm not particularly interested in punishing the frontline guy. I don't like what happened at Abu Ghraib, which is let's beat up a bunch of privates about this. I actually, and I say this with some trepidation, I don't blame the Marines who shot 24 civilians at Haditha and massacred 24 civilians. I blame the people who put them in that position, the people who didn't train them, the people who didn't discipline them, the people who didn't guide them, which is their chain of command. Likewise, on torture, I want to know who gave the orders, how was it carried out. I'd like to see an amnesty declared. Everybody needs to come forward by a date certain and tell us what you did and how it happened. And if you do not come forward, after a date certain, you are going to be subject to prosecution. Because I think we all need to know what happened, not only because it was done in our names, but maybe to prevent it from ever happening again. You cannot win a war for your values by undermining your values.